Hey everyone, welcome to Over 50 Starting Over. I'm Barry Edwards, and today we are joined with Darshan Pindoria and, for the second time. And we have a very interesting conversation about following our passions, finding our passions, and having a better outlook, a more proper outlook on life. I hope you enjoy this. Please don't forget about Mark Tennant's AI tip of the week at the end. Sign up with us at over50startingover.com. Like and share our YouTube videos, please. And sign up at Apple Podcasts and at Spotify. Over 50 Starting Over. Hope you enjoyed it. Darshan, welcome to Over 50 Starting Over once again. How are you today?
It is good. How you been?
Oh,
Oh, wow.
cold. I don't know.
Yeah.
How's the weather over there in the UK? It's cold.
It's
Is
really cold. Yeah,
Yeah?
it's between 1 and 5 Celsius.
Yeah, what does that translate to Fahrenheit? I'm an
Oh, no
arrogant
idea.
American.
Uh what's the freezing point for water?
32.
Yeah, so it's around that point.
Okay, yeah, it is same here, and we're supposed to get slightly above that for a couple days over the weekend, then into single digits for us, which is way, way below
Ooh.
freezing.
Oh
Yeah,
wow. Yeah. I
yeah,
thought I
very
thought I
cool.
had it bad. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
My dog loves it, and he's got a lot of dog friends that they meet at the park. They love this stuff.
Fair
It
enough.
gets us out there.
Oh, I see you're
Hey,
still going strong with the podcast. I see them.
oh yeah, yeah,
Links
and
coming
always
every week. That's
trying to raise
amazing.
the bar.
That is really good.
Well, really good to see you. I got to do a quick intro. It occurred to me. I looked it up the other day. It's 2 years since our last podcast. Like
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Lockdown. Yeah.
All right, let me do a quick intro for you.
Go
We'll
for it.
get going. Okay, excited. Welcome back, special guest Darshan Pindoria, founder of Deep Psych and a passionate advocate for the power of self-discovery and free thinking. Darshan combines the wisdom of Eastern philosophy honed in Indian ashrams with Western psychological tools to help individuals break free from societal conditioning and unlock their full potential. With this unique approach, Darshan challenges us to step outside the boundaries of what we've been told to think and instead embrace the true power of a free mind. Get ready for a thought provoking conversation about breaking free, thinking independently, and finding true fulfillment. Darshan, would you want to add or edit anything to my intro?
Appreciate it. Yeah, that was great. All right.
Well, I'm excited about this conversation because it's all the kind of stuff that's always on my mind. Um, a big part of a theme that we have here in Over 50 Starting Over is about critical thinking, thinking things through for yourself instead of right now, today, for quite some time, actually. We have been conditioned to find our team and find our issue and pick our side and dig in and join in the divisiveness that has really shaped American culture. But I know it's the same in the UK and Europe as well.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
I and I am a staunch independent. I will never
Okay.
take a side with anybody, and when somebody wants to start claiming I'm on their side, they'll push me away because I know that what's going to happen is they're going to start shifting their views underneath my feet, and
Yep.
all of a sudden I'm part of some movement that I really don't fully believe in.
So it's this case of putting emotion to things that you have no power over, and putting logic to things that you got power over is a superpower. So if all we do is just put emotion behind stuff that we can't implement ourselves, it's a whole it pulls from the body, it pulls from our existence. And really
Right,
and truly, if you could logically change things, oh yeah, that's a superpower. If you know you've got a situation or you know you've got something about your life, put the logic to it, change it, and it's like a part of the mind that people don't use anymore. We just go straight to the emotional. We just get angry. We just get sad, or it's the logical side of the mind. It's a muscle. The more we use it, and really and truly, those type of things start popping up in our mind after. So if we're just emotional all the time, it's always popping up in our mind to be, what should I get emotional over next? What should I get angry about next? All of those. When I'm talking to someone else, I try to emotionally win them over. And
Well,
then the logical people, yeah.
that's very interesting. What you say, you went straight to emotion, and I totally understand what you mean because what I see very often is in debates, people trying to either intimidate, which is
Mm.
eliciting
What about
emotion.
what's the news like where you are?
Oh,
Is it
call
all
you a
emotional
bigot.
triggers or
You don't believe what we believe. You're a bigot. That's all they look for is shame and guilt. Is
yeah?
kind of immediately. And if you use those tools, you don't have to read any books. It's
Yeah.
really great for lazy people. So you don't
Oh.
have to support your argument logically with facts and with sources. That's how.
I hear you. This is it's one of those things when someone's talking to you, it could be between relationships as well. If people master the whole aspect of knowing what's logical versus what's emotional, then it's just a case of listening to someone's emotions run through, let them run through, keep
Mm,
asking them, keep prompting them, whatever it is probably just a bit of pressure built up inside of them. Let it run through, and then when you ask them a logical question, see what the answer is. A logical question is like, so what's your action plan towards this, or how do you think is going to be is best resolved? All of those type of things they come after. So it's same thing in the household. Someone will ask you, "What do you want to eat tonight?" Really and truly, they're in an emotional state to have either a sweet or a savory. So it's
uh-huh.
if you haven't figured it out, there's no point giving them a logical answer until their emotions are all clear to them.
That's interesting because I was just going to ask you how that pertains to the interpersonal relationship. And
Okay.
what you're saying is to just simply, when you're feeling that you're up against the emotional
Yeah.
brick wall, that you just ask questions to get through it. Is that correct?
It's going to be a bit of a it just depends how brave you're feeling. So
Hmm.
let's just say there's a family issue going on, even if
Yeah.
it's with kids. The easiest example, a 4-year-old, no matter what they're asking for, is just an emotional state. You got to rinse that. You could use ways to get them more emotional, trigger it, make them
Oh,
more
sure.
angry.
That's easy.
Try rinse the battery, and then once that's done, then you just ask them a simple question: should we have this or should we have that? But
Hmm.
if you try to give them an option when they're just emotionally all overwhelmed, it's just going to go in circles. They don't really know the answer. They got to get rid of the energy. It's an energy boom.
Huh. Okay. So you went straight down to dealing with a child, which I think most of us today act like just big children. Let's,
Exactly.
yeah, let's explore that a little bit. So you have an ill-behaved child who wants something, says they want something, maybe they want it, maybe they don't. How do you get through to that? How do you get to more of a rational life? How do you get a kid that is
Yeah.
digging his heels in really hard on
Yeah.
something to come to a rational state?
So there's only ever two options with kids. You either got to let it play out or you got to redirect. There's no
Hmm.
such thing as stopping. You
Okay.
can't really just stop them. You can, but it's gonna have some level of knock-on effect after. So the redirects is show them something new, show them something different. If a kid's throwing a tantrum, all of a sudden if you change the room, change the scene, or change the topic, that is a redirect on it. But if that's not working and you just need more of the tantrum to go on, then you could spark a bit of anger up. You could you could really just help them rinse the batteries faster by making them cry, making them laugh, making them run, making them do something very different. So
Hmm.
this is how we normally play that situation out. Otherwise, back in the days, they just used to give them a slap, so that just puts a stop on it. But really, there's still that fuel going on. So, energy, the thing that we all know, but we fail to look in our daily life is energy always needs to flow, whether it's going to flow out or whether it's going to flow in. If you keep locking up negative emotions, those negative emotions start flowing within you and start finding little ways to cause defects on the inside. So you get anti-immune issues, you start getting digestive system issues. It depends how much you lock up. And most of the clients that I've talked to, I tell them, okay, run me through your life. Then you start noticing, okay, there was a negative phase. If that didn't get resolved, I know sooner or later they're going to tell me about an illness that hit them further
Mm.
down the line, because it's inevitable. Where's all that negativity going to go? It's not just your body's not just going to absorb it and just and especially with people that don't talk to a lot of people that bottle it up. Oh
Hmm.
yeah, it hits them in one way or the other.
Yeah.
Otherwise the mind just stagnates. That's the ultimate weakness. Then you could try have antidepressants to try get your chemicals going, but your mind's stagnated.
All right, let me ask you something. There's a lot of ways I want to ask. I want to get to there's a big part of me that wants to ask about this kind of subject matter in a business negotiation setting. But before I do, because you made me think right there about you're kind of saying that you need an outlet. I'm not sure if you mean if it's one, the other, or both, that you need to be able to express yourself so that you don't bottle it up, or or is it equally as good to have your support group, your family, your friends, or whatever it may be, where you can unwind, bounce these things off of at a later date to find your maybe it's after the fact, but you're then finding how you can
Okay.
redirect your course better in the future.
So if I split this into physiology and psychology, so psychology, the release mechanisms, yeah, we could talk about that, but in physiology, just look at nature as it is. When you get angry, you feel that moving. Your arms feel like swinging, or you might get so tense, your muscles actually want to tense up. That's a movement-based trigger. So your body is actually telling you this energy needs to be physically exerted. And when you're tired, what your body naturally just yawns. It actually just,
Yes.
and then when you're injured, your mouth naturally just opens and gives you a scream. Your
Mm.
mouth, your body is showing you could release fear and tiredness, like all these strains that come on through the mouth. So this is, let's just say I've had a bad day. Just talking about it, just the actual process of talking through it. That's what your body is literally trying to tell you. Talk it out.
Hmm.
Now, these are all release mechanisms in your physiology. They're naturally there. And when you stop them, you start getting pressure points starting to build up all over your body. You start getting knots in your muscles. This is why people keep going for a massage. Really and truly, that's pressure. Why did it come back 2 weeks after? Really and truly, why did it come back? Your body is used to having a certain level of emotion, physical motion. You're not giving it, so it's tightening up in all these places. And sometimes you're giving it too much, but and not giving it the rest, etc. So it's all visible on our physiology, and then
Hmm.
the psychology. If you control your psychology, you control your physiology. The psychology. It's always going to be the winning topic. If you master the mind, you've mastered everything.
Right, mind and body for sure. I remember, and the last time we talked, I asked you if
Yeah.
you ever heard of Dr. Dispenza. What's his first name? Dispenza is he is a chiropractor that he got cancer, and he's one of those guys. He started looking at mind over matter approach, and he got his cancer into complete remission, and he's been the self help kind of guy ever since. But he has a totally different approach where he would talk about changing what you do physically to
Okay.
change what happens
Yeah.
mentally because we condition our bodies through habit and habit. Change your physical
Yeah.
habits, and then your mind is asking, hey, what do I do now?
Exactly.
And you can
Exactly.
reprogram.
Oh, imagine if we just the basics. If we just start looking at our morning
Yep,
to
yep,
until we start work, just
yep.
these little things that we do differently. Let's say if I physically do my morning differently versus on 2 different days, which one causes a better psychology pattern throughout the day? Everyone's going to experience it as a guarantee.
Oh, that's a really good point. I know with my mornings, I get up usually around 5 or so. I have my coffee while I'm looking over news and playing a couple games of Candy
Mhm.
Crush. Is that it? I don't think this is ideal. And I think like
What
I
type of
should,
effect do you want throughout the day? Let's just say, do you want
well,
do you
here's
want a
what
focused type of day, or do you want a hyperactive energy, a bit more explosive type of day?
I want more of a balance. Now, see, here's what I do, and I've experimented with this because what I'm doing in those mornings, I'm preparing to go to the gym. The
Okay.
first thing I do when I get up is go to the gym. I have a pretty good workout. Then when I come home, I take my dog for a walk. It's got to happen. And then I come home and start work. So I've been up for quite some time before I start work. Now, I've experimented with working out at different times of the day. For me, I have the most energy in the morning and I like the clarity that I get mentally, which is why I work out first thing in the morning. Now, when you were just talking about people building up the stress and having knots in their body and all of that because of, a lot of times what happens, we build up that cortisol, which is that stress hormone. And if you're just sitting behind a desk and doing business and that I think you might want to consider a midday workout if that is
So
your
it's one of
habit.
those as well. You mentioned it before. You've got more energy in the morning. Now, really and truly, why is our energy patterns set to a time of day? If you
I'm
look
an
at it,
early to bed, early to rise kind of person myself by nature.
yeah,
I know a lot of
and
people are wired differently.
yeah. So this whole wiring. Let's just say I've got a client that struggles to sleep. Now, the what's happening? They're eating at 6 o'clock. Then that food is getting processed maybe 2, 3 hours later.
Uh-huh.
Now he's got an energy package that's arrived into his body at 8:30, 9 o'clock. Now that energy package really like it needs to go somewhere. Now, if you're trying to put your body to sleep whilst you got an energy package that just arrived at around 8:39, that's going to mess up the whole system. It's going to you're not going to know whether to have logical thoughts or emotional thoughts at night. So people
Mm,
that have negativity in their life, they suffer anxiety most at night because they're having a late meal, they're getting a huge energy package, and no physical exertion of it.
mm,
Now, with you, you're having it in the morning, you're having your physical exertion in the morning. Uh, you're probably having it on an empty stomach. So you
mm,
probably have, so it could be an empty stomach, or it could just be the food is going to digest 2 hours later.
mhm,
So
mhm.
all of that, you're good on an empty stomach. So you
Yeah.
know if you want to focus or you want to get some energy out of you, it works when your stomach just before it's given its energy release. So this is how we scope out nutrition and your day,
Mhm,
your energy levels throughout the day. If I start finding that, then I start finding how much release you actually need. Some people they don't need much physical release because maybe their diet is in line whenever they're going for their physical activity.
mhm.
So in back in the days when I was in ashram, I was waking up at 2 in the morning, 2:30 every day.
Really?
I was struggling after, so I spoke with a yogi. He said, "What time are you eating?" So he literally he scoped out my eating patterns, and he says, "Your energy, your body clock is set by your food and sleep. If
Mm.
your body clock is contradicting with your sleep, if your food times are contradicting with your sleep, you're going to wake up super tired." So what I do is make that evening meal really light and make the morning meal really heavy. Now
Okay.
I've got a heavy morning meal, so that energy release will start up around 10 o'clock because
Mm.
I've eaten at 7, and now give it a few hours to digest. Now I've got an energy level. If my body gets used to using that energy slowly but surely throughout the day, by 5, 6 o'clock, I've run out of physical
Mm.
juices, and then I'm just topping it up with a bit of calming type of food. So it'll be in ashram it was more milk heavy, or it
Mm.
was it was it's like the slow release type of energy. And yeah, that's how I was able to get to sleep, nice deep sleep after, and then I was waking up 2:30 we go for a bath in the lake, we go for a long walk to the lake, and then
Mm,
come back, do our yoga practices, stretch everything out. Because stagnation literally builds up overnight. So
true.
all that food energy that's come through, it has to go somewhere. So it goes into our muscles, it tightens everything up. And in the morning, if we stretch that out, we really activate all that energy that was left in our body overnight. We could really use it for what it's meant to be used for.
Okay, what about the typical European diet? I don't want to say diet,
Okay.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is Europeans typically very late. So how
Yeah.
does that? I mean, that really okay. I eat my last meal typically around 6 o'clock,
Okay.
and so how does that? How is their day going to differ? But then also Europeans are typically going to have a siesta
Oh,
midday.
yeah. Yeah. So
That's
siestas,
probably much healthier, is my thought.
it's it's a weird one. Do you need the energy? What time do you need the energy? So you fuel yourself for the timings, you need that energy. And if
Yeah, yeah,
you, so most office people, if they have a heavy lunch, they feel super tired after
yes.
because that heavy lunch needs physical exertion as well. So if you start balancing your nutrition based on when you need the energy the most, oh, you're laughing. And if you need focus, you start having lighter meals. If you need more physical power, you start having a bit more heavier meals. So in India, they don't. When I was in ashram, they never used to fuss too much about what you're having. It's there's that saying, it's not what you eat, it's what you digest. So,
Hmm.
if I have milk and lemon, something tangy, and I have milk with it, that's milk and lemon. Milk splits when it comes in contact with acid. So now what's being digested is a heavier substance, really and truly. So they're not saying what you're eating, it's what's being digested, what comes together, and what's that package after.
Okay,
Now,
gotcha.
if you know what's being digested, you will know within half an hour if that meal was good for you or not.
Okay.
It's all within half an hour. How do you feel half an hour after you've eaten? That's all you need to look at. You can look at the long term if you've got this illness, that illness. That's because you're not looking at the half an hour. So
Mhm.
half an hour after you eat, do you feel amazing? Do you feel like really good? Or do you feel like I just need to sit down and do nothing?
Right, right. I always feel like I need another cup of coffee after that, after lunch.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way we roll here in America. Let's just power through it all. And I've
But
heard it
really and
said,
truly, you're having a coffee because half an hour later you feel good. So now you just need to get that same feeling out of your meals.
yeah, that's very true. It's very true. I think I need to experiment with that a little bit more.
Ah.
Uh, let's back up a little bit and let me ask you, how would you explain the power of free mind thinking? What
Mm.
is your explanation of that?
Yeah, fair enough. So free-minded thinking is the way the mind's meant to be. The mind's meant to be free. If you give it a task, and you need creativity out of it, even if you need logic out of it, it will work real best when it's free. If you've got a lot of pressure on you, you're just going to you're just going to do the shortcut thinking, what we call it. And the best example I've got of free-minded is if me and you meet up and we just casually start walking, all of a sudden me and you we could walk for a few miles and not even notice it.
Mhm.
But now if your wife or kids tell you to go to go to the shop and get something when you don't want it, all of a sudden 2 miles seems like a chore.
Sure.
Now this is what our life is as well. A lot of things feel hard, but if we would just done it with a free mind, if we just done it casually, it'll be so much easier. Same thing like when we do stuff and we're just on the phone or listening to music, because our mind's free, that activity becomes a lot easier. Our mind processes it as a lot easier as well. But
Mhm.
now, because because we've got all these expectations on the mind, expectations this, and we also know there's easier ways to do it. So with our mind tells the body to take it as a hard task. It's
Mhm.
is that mind and body connection is so linked. So the older age people give. So my grandma, she's hitting 97. They didn't have cars back in the days. So they would just say, "Oh yeah, we just used to walk there and back, no worries." But now, no one in that village would ever think about walking there.
All right.
Why? Because now there's a such thing as cars. The body's still the same, everything's all the same, but really and truly, in our mind, we can't do the same things that our older generation used to do, just because we've seen convenience. Now,
Hmm.
back in the days, there was no convenience. It's they're saying our legs have literally gone weaker because we know about cars. Just our legs, we're just treating them as a lot weaker because we know about cars.
Well, there's another side, like it just strikes me as having had dogs my entire life
Yeah,
and having to take them in the middle of the day or whatever, middle of a
exactly.
work day. What a nice reset. Because if I'm
Yeah,
struggling, I'm sometimes I get into kind of a spin. There's three different things going on that are driving me crazy. I feel like, speaking to your point, I don't really want to do any of them.
okay.
I'm kind of up against the wall on some of
Yeah.
these things. Then I take my dog for a nice walk on a nice day, and the solutions will come to me. So
Oh,
I'm
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, preoccupying myself physically with something enjoyable, which enables my mind to unwind, and somehow taking away that there seems to be a instead of the rubber stamp comes off, like this is a horrible
Yeah.
situation or a horrible thought, and instead it can just do a
Yeah.
slow drip through my brain, and I can find a way out of the situation.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a phenomenon we all have, but we just haven't learned to put it to our day-to-day life. So if I'm going work, really and truly, where's that free-minded thinking to say, because I'm so good at this, I'm going to be doing this anyway. Let me find something that just makes me flow, just richly the ideas come to me or that brings me alive. And most likely, you're only going to get that when you're around people you enjoy working with.
Mm.
That's the majority of all cases. And anyone that's getting stressed at work, fair enough, they're getting stressed at work. But some people are enjoying that stress because of the culture they've built or the people around them, and it just really brings them alive. They get the stress, and it fuels them. The energy goes to the right places in the body. It goes to the mind. It actually triggers them to be a better at
and,
work.
and inspired.
Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
that's very, very interesting what you say because humans are very social
Yeah,
animals by nature, but a work environment is thrown upon you. It's not very few of us have complete control over what that environment is, and so you can get in with a bunch of coworkers, and you may like half of them, you may like three quarters, you may like 90% of them. It takes one person
but
to
it's
be.
like what type of? So you got a lot of we've got a lot of high school students that don't know what they want to do in the future.
Oh, sure.
It's yeah, you ask them what do you want to be in the future, this and that. Then slowly and surely they start settling based on what they think they're capable of doing at that time in their life.
Yeah.
Now, really and truly, what that time of your life and after university, those times they're
Almost
totally different.
never matches
So
up.
then, so
Right.
we all end up making decisions based on something separate to our own being. The one question I always ask, if someone asks me, what do I want to be in the future? I always ask them, what type of people bring you alive?
Hmm.
So doctors, maybe they feel alive when they are around a bit more needy people, a bit more injured, a bit more those type of people that they can make a difference to. So those type of people might bring them alive. Now, money people, they might just be high on money. They just literally they need people around them that are just talking about money, and that
Oh,
brings
yeah.
them alive. Some people they can't be around people that just talk about money all day. And same thing
Sure.
with teachers. If maybe they like to see the spirit of the child, and maybe they've got that little package inside of them that just wants to be free and play and that type of thing. So they are best suited to be a teacher because it brings them alive. Now, all round, if you start finding the people that bring you alive throughout life, even when you're a kid, even when you're in high school, the people that bring you alive the most, then you find a career that will slot you right in the middle of them. And whether you like to be creative or hands-on or logical, all of that, you can start putting the dots together.
Hmm. That's very interesting. What kind of people bring you to life? What kind of people inspire you, give you, make you feel full and energized? You
So I'm
yourself.
I do like the adrenaline type people.
Oh,
More often
really?
than not, is always the adrenaline people. So I could go into an ashram, but even then, I'm still looking for the adrenaline people. I'm a drummer myself, so I'm the drum type of people. The
Yeah,
the people that
physical.
want to go from one thing to another, one thing to another. Those type events based people. So that's where my wife, she's a bit more introvert, but she'll always see me thinking, oh yeah, I want to go here. Even when we're on holiday, I need to do four things in a day, not just oh we'll visit one place in a day, that type
Sure.
of thing.
I remember you said that you're not even a big meditator yourself, but you get that feeling, that comfort when you're playing drums or chanting.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
this is the whole misconception about meditation. People think meditation is forcing the mind to do something, but that's contemplation. So contemplation, sooner or later, uh, it's it's gonna slip out your hands. If you just keep trying to contemplate this, contemplate my future, contemplate what I'm doing right now, contemplate meditating on the heart or whatever you're doing, you're contemplating it. Meditation is called fixation. So when you're fixed on something, when you're dancing, you're fixed on the music, or you technically you're lost, but you're still fixed on what you're lost in. So that's meditation. That could be done through
uh,
activity. That could be done through just natural, just
walking your
sitting there.
dog.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know
So
what? That's what it sounds like to me. Is that what I was saying about walking my dog and how that preoccupies me physically enough? But you know what also puts me in a place of inspiration? You're outside. Being
yeah.
outside any time of year, as long as you're comfortable, is somewhat inspiring and relaxing.
No,
Let me,
it's really and truly, if you start putting expectations and pressure on certain things, you start losing this power of the mind, essentially. Otherwise, people just end up scrolling after because they need a stimulus to work into.
that's
But
interesting.
otherwise, there's plenty going on in the mind if you wanted to look for it.
You know what? That's a good segue to this question I got for you. What are the most common ways people are told how to think by society, culture, or institutions? So we're back into that antithesis of the free mind thinking.
So it's that notion of expectation. It's every time we do something, we're trying to figure out what image is going to portray about us, or what is it that I'm going to gain. Now, if all you do is try to gain something, all your pressure is around that thing that you're trying to gain. Now, if fair enough, some people it's money, but some people it's something a bit more deeper. It might just be recognition from the boss. It might be okay, I need money to make sure my family respects me in a certain way, etc. So, what is that expectation? Once you find it, then we really need to find out where did that come from. Am I like most of the time we're running after something that really and truly people around us don't even expect from us. So we start running around. I need to be a certain earner. I need to have a house because my parents won't approve of me. Have you asked your parents if they're going to approve of you, whether or
Uh,
not you have the house? So all of these type of things, really, it's if you look into it, most of them probably started from a younger age. You started thinking, my parents just want me to be a certain way, but your parents just wanted you to be happy. They just wanted you to develop, and they just wanted you to express your growth in the most suitable way to you. But we've formed that as an expectation, and now is a driving force is a bit deeper because we haven't really looked into why that's a driving force, and it's throwing you into a lot of misery a lot of the time. It throws you to money in ways that you don't want to get. It throws you towards social circles, etc. So those expectations, once we find them, oh yeah, that's you gaining your life. That's you gaining your power back.
That's interesting from what I get from you, and I totally see this, is that we get conditioned at a young age, purposefully or not, like by our parents and by society, to kind of guide our lives because of fear. So gain the money, get the house, get the car, get the chase the job that you don't really like because you have a fear
Gain
of.
that approval, yeah.
Well, I think it's a fear of not. At the end of the day, no, if you chase it all the way back to the biggest root cause, what we all are looking for, especially women, is safety. And for a lot of us, we are conditioned that money, the house, all of that is safety. And what you're saying is, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
So I think
if you
most of
can,
people are able to get safety. So
that's
it's
my point. If you
just
could
that
chase your
one.
dreams to get your safety
Yeah, yeah,
instead of
exactly,
go down that road you'd rather
exactly,
not go down,
exactly.
and in with the people you'd rather not be around that you don't
Mm.
jive with as much.
Exactly, and it's this is really and truly, a lot of people are scared to discover themselves because they're scared to find out that they're not able to get what they really want because now because they're so deep into their career, or they're so deep into
Yeah.
whichever family situation has conquered up, whatever the situation is, if they realize what they actually wanted from a young age or from deep within, they're going to realize that yeah, I've kind of played life wrong. I can't go back. I've got this regret, and it's something as psychologists we also have to be careful with exposing that to people as well. So
Yes.
like
Well, you
uh,
know what, though? You have a very interesting opportunity on this podcast because it's over 50 starting over. And it really started out about 5 years ago. Yeah, just over 5 years now. Um, as saying, hey, people, you're at the most powerful point in your life. Like you have the most experience, the most knowledge. Hopefully, you got a little bit of financial security where you can do. Maybe you're an empty nester now. Maybe you can finally take that chance on yourself now to do what you really always wanted to do. And um, I for a whole lot of us, I think if we ran this marathon, not marathon, sprint, like, oh my God, I just worked my ass off doing this job I hate, but for the money so I could reach retirement, then for God's sakes, I guess retire and take a load off and rest up, whatever. But for a lot of us, I think if it may be an opportunity where you can just switch gears. Maybe you go into semi-retirement but hopefully you have an opportunity to take all this knowledge, all this experience, and turn it into doing something for 6 hours a day or what have you that you really enjoy doing and at the same time feels productive for you.
yeah, I'm a full believer in that. Oh, after 50, yes,
Yeah.
that's literally when you've got the whole story to look upon. So you've got the whole life story to look upon to see which aspects brought you alive. In troubling situations, we might have had a lot of trouble in our life, but something in that troubling situation brought you alive. Was it caring for someone? Was it the fact that okay,
Uh,
once I'm out, I want to do this or something? There's always going to be a full story to there's a map we could call it data. You've got a massive amount of data to look into to see what brings you alive. Now, we could bring you alive physically, mentally, all of those, but really what's going to bring you alive is when you hit that one point that used to bring you that free-mindedness, that whole sense of upliftment. Just look through that whole data package. It could just be when the kids were happy, or when the kids were relaxed, or when the wife was relaxed. For some people, it could be that, or it could be when they were going for the house. They were working really hard to get a certain attainment. All of those type of things. When you're 50, you could start teaching other people to experience that same joy because you've got the story on you. So if I want to, so I've got a senior that I look up to. He's in his 60s now, but he's really good with operations. For some
mhm.
reason, we could get the biggest operation consultants, but he comes into a warehouse, he knows exactly the
Yeah.
fastest way, the best way to do things, and it goes way above the standard gurus on
Yeah.
YouTube, etc. And he
Yeah.
feels alive, and he knows that's a good aspect of him. Now he's able to give that at the age of 50, and giving what brings you alive at the age of 50, that's always going to be the
Dude,
dream, all the way to the end.
You really hit on something there because I am exactly not the guy that you want to get your operations knowledge from.
Yeah, yeah,
My gifts are different. I realize
yeah,
that. I know that. And you're right. I've had these conversations with other clients before who are like, I need to enhance my branding. All I do is fight for the lowest cost with my competitors. That's a horrible place to be in. You want to be able to identify what we call your value propositions. This is not, I'm not trying to turn this into an
yeah.
ad. I am really trying to give some valuable advice here. What I mean by that is there was a guy that this is a long time ago. I hope I remember it correctly. I was in a networking meeting and I was telling people about value propositions. That's how you find what is unique to you that sets you apart. Above your competition that they can't even reproduce because maybe it's a proprietary way you do something. Maybe it's a very unique education or life experience you had. Maybe you had a near death experience, which now caused you to go into something. This guy was a pesticide guy. He killed bugs for a living, and he was a real negative guy. And he's like, and he's like, well, I just kill bugs for a living. What do I do that's so special? And I'm like, well, why do you kill bugs for? He goes, I just got out of college. I got a job working for this guy, and I was like, I could run this company better than he could. So I went out on my own. I'm like, okay, if you were going to kill bugs in your own household. What do you think about there? He's like, well, I'm using organic around my kids. And kind of getting back to this, it's been a long time since I even told this story, but I'm like, okay, so you have this expertise, you're a family man, and why don't you lead with organics? Even as most of your clients in the end will want traditional pesticides, you now have this unique knowledge and care that you are this family man. You are an expert in organic pest management. Go with that. Here's my real point to cap all that off. Most of us take our expertise so for granted. We've lived with it for so many years, we don't even see it anymore. We take it for granted. So
And
your operations guy,
it's yeah.
he's a
So
good
it's like
example.
you mentioned so you've got someone that's working for someone else as a pesticide company, and he realizes he could do it better
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah.
Now, that's a gutsy move.
It
Now,
is.
for him to do that, that's a success story on him that he could really apply to many other people in various other industries to help them do something better on their own 2 feet.
Perfect
That's
point.
it's something that even me, I'm thinking about going to him now because
Ah,
he he knows he
right.
knows what to pull from who you're currently working for and how to apply it on your own 2 feet. That's something a lot of people struggle with. They
It's
struggle with
very
making that
true.
step. Now, all of a sudden, if he knows he's got that, he's going to start seeing opportunities within the family, within the friend circles, within the community. He's going to start seeing opportunities to jump in to conversations to help people do that. Now,
Absolutely.
my job essentially is to make sure that person knows they have that strength and
Yes.
they start contemplating on it. I don't need to convince them of confidence anymore. They've got the story. They've already got the actual
Right.
live package. If they start saying, "Oh yeah, I can't do that. I can't do this," that same story has probably come up a few times in their life. So
For sure.
start going down the going
We
down the timeline and bring up all the stories. And that person, you can't react confidence to something that you've done plenty of times. So
right.
that's
We call them consultants. And
fair enough.
again, I'm just throwing this back to the over 50 starting over. Almost all of us could be an expert consultant in
Mhm.
some, we just have to identify within ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's you start embodying something. So you know
Yeah.
when you don't really know your identity is the saddest person ever.
Oh,
That's what we
dude, you
call
just
sadness.
depressed a lot of people.
So it's
Don't you think most of us struggle a bit with our identity?
so the identity is always we always link identity to results. So
Yeah.
if you know the results you've been getting or you've been giving or you're able to give, if you know that result, all of a sudden you could start really working into your identity. it doesn't have to be a clear statement. It has to be a clear feeling.
Mm,
So if you know, well, if I'm going after this result, I could I could feel alive for it, or I could give myself to it, or if I get exposed for that result to a bigger audience, I'm happier. What happens when you do the opposite? Let's just say I'm not good at cooking. So if I do cooking and I have a quick win and I somehow make something good, I can be happy, but I'm always going to fear me being exposed to a wider audience for that skill. So if my wife tells my mum or tells someone else that this guy's good at cooking and then tell him to cook next time, that's a big fear inside of me. But when it comes to speaking on an event or a big party, yeah, I want full exposure for that. Yeah, people,
right,
I want everyone to know about that. I'm good at that. You
right,
see what I'm
right, right.
saying? Because I've identified with that result.
Okay. That made me think of a personal question I got for you. Just a total aside.
Go
So
for it.
you're of Indian heritage. Is your wife?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. But you've grown, born and raised in the UK.
Okay, yeah.
Those are food clash, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Total opposites as far as food goes. I love Indian food. I absolutely love it. And everything I know about English food is so the opposite, so bland. And how do you guys cook? What is your food choice? How do
Oh,
you reconcile where you live?
so it's one of those. If we're going out or having a special occasion, then anything goes. But otherwise, it's Indian food all the way, and
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
sold by it, man. And literally, there's a difference between Western diets and Eastern diets. So Eastern diets heavily rely on the liquid matter that's made from the food.
Ah.
So it's like the juices that are created through whatever you're eating. So this is
Uh-huh.
why spices and curries, etc., whatever you're eating, what what taste does it make when it mixes with your saliva? Now
Hmm.
in the West, it's heavily on texture. So you've got
Uh-huh.
burgers, you've got chips, all of that
Sure.
type of stuff. It's about the chewing motion. It's about the it's heavily texture based and looks. So Eastern food is never going to we don't present it in a fancy way.
Right, right, right.
You just go straight into it.
Boy, I love it though, man. Oh, I love Indian food. My favorite by far though is Mexican food. I mean
Okay.
authentic Mexican. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
So Mexican is like a middle ground
It
between
is. It
it's
totally
got all the
is.
spices and it's got it's all textured up as well.
Yeah, I definitely like spicy food. All right. I have so many questions that I did want to touch on. Let's just throw it right back to the role of fear in conformity. Why do you think fear plays such a big role in keeping people stuck in conditional thinking?
So uh, if we just go a full step back from this, we've got conformity, but
Yes.
why are we even conforming in the first place? And because we haven't done any introspect work. So if you start finding out more about yourself, you don't have to go with whatever everyone else is saying about you. So it's that one step that we all keep missing, and this is why I always a lot of parents recommend it to their kids as well. But at some point, go out of your norm and venture out, do some trekking,
Adventure.
do some type of work abroad, not just uni. Go somewhere separate and lose yourself for a while. Then, is that
I think
uh,
that's great advice.
there's that whole saying, you got to lose yourself to find yourself type of thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
once we do that, then conforming feels like a chore. Now, if you think conforming is your norm, if it just feels normal to you, you're probably missing a few questions here and there.
No,
And
I totally agree.
uh, if you know when certain people that don't conform and it gets you angry, if you're starting to find resentment towards people that don't conform or break the patterns, or even if it's within the family, maybe the brother or sister is not abiding by the rules of the house. If all of that really affects you, then you know there's a package inside of you that's yet to be discovered to
Yeah.
know, are you really are you really the person you're conforming into, or is there a whole different person you want to be, but you're blocking yourself? You put some walls up for it.
Hmm.
So it's always going to get you angry. You're going to see other people. doing things differently is going to annoy you.
Mm.
It's like the whole concept of people hate other people that are just free. They hate
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
it
totally
burns
know
them
what
up.
you. Yeah, I think that follows the Pareto principle, which is the 80-20 rule, and I 80% of us are kind of conformists by design. Our I understand that our educational system was originally designed to create factory workers. We needed
Yep.
that's the ultimate conformist. And 80% of us, I think, are just cool with that and designed for it. But then there's the other 20% that's going to have that, as you, how did you put it? But you said there's this like box inside or something that's dying to get out. They yearning for
So
the
you
adventure.
mentioned it when the whole conforming thing comes up. When you put everyone together and make them achieve a single result, therefore you're achieving a single identity within all of those. So this is where if you want to break the pattern, you literally have to break the identity. And
Sure.
once once you start getting into exploring it, it is a scary journey. It's a whole question
Of
of,
course it
oh,
is.
is it really this? Is it really, is that really me? Or it's all of those questions are going to come up. But we're always going to be good at achieving results because we could force ourselves to.
Yeah,
I could be good at literally any job if I really train and force myself to.
right.
But that whole thing that brings you alive, that whole thing that one day you'll happily tell someone else to do because you've experienced joy from it yourself. You'll happily tell someone to work hard for it. That is not going to come unless you find it, find what it is for you. So,
All right, I
example,
got
there's a lot of people that get to a certain age and then they don't seem happy when they're around their own family. They don't seem happy telling them do this in the future or this is what I done. They don't even seem happy telling them about their life story because it didn't really match their style. But in that same career, a lot of other people came out and they're all buzzed up about it. They literally like, yeah, I
yeah.
got to do this. I got to work on this car, that car. I was working in this factory, whatever it was. It's literally that equation. Why does it bring joy to some people? Why does it bring
Right.
devastation to others?
All right, so I got some hard questions for you here. And I know because I've pondered them a lot. I've written blog posts about them over the years. And it's about finding one's individual passion. There's so many of us that could be 55 years old and are like, yeah, listen, I'm listening to you guys. And yeah, I really do want to make a change. And I really want to do something that I'm passionate about. But the only thing I'm passionate about is playing video games
Oh
or
shit.
something like that, watching movies or shopping. Oh, if I could just be a professional shopper, that would be great. For the people that don't seem to have the answer at a mature stage in life on how they can be productive and truly enjoy their days doing something, in other words, knowing themselves, the free thinking to totally unlock their true self, what are some steps that you would suggest taking to
That
unlock?
makes sense. So, first things first is always going to be make sure there's no situational hardship in your life because you're always going to identify with the situations currently in your life. So, if you're going through maybe a financial strain where you have to work and you need to get a certain paycheck by the end of the month, that's a situational hardship. You could work around it. You could work to your strengths. You could develop a skill in that time but you can't really identify what your passion is because you haven't got the exploring abilities at that time. And now, if you do have that time to explore, then you start finding people around you that you naturally look up to for a certain reason. What you start finding that reason. So if you're it could be whilst you're scrolling through social media. It could be through newspapers. What type of people naturally do you like to know more about? Then those people are doing something you're passionate about. That is a passion. Now you need to find out who you could talk to about this passion, and through that conversation, you will start finding need to implement it in your life. Because right now, the only reason you're not following your passion is because you feel you don't need to. I could tell you, yeah, it's gonna be fun, it'll be good, but all of that, it doesn't really get you to start. when you find a need to start, then you're going to start a passion because passions, you've been putting off passion for your whole life, so you're going to carry on maybe putting them off. It's just they're optional to you.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this first thing, if you've got the situation or ability to maybe free up, explore a few different options, even if it's just a Saturday that's free. If you've got a whole Saturday that's free, maybe explore different things. And first of all, find that thing that it can make you angry at certain people. It can make you inquisitive to see why is this person doing this? How is he able to do that? Or those people that have a boat, maybe people like to wonder, oh yeah, how did he get a boat? This, and that. Now you know you're into getting on boats. Just little
That's
things.
a
There's
good
certain
it's a good
certain things
example.
about people we actually like it. It's same thing with when someone passes away, we remember certain things about their life. What are those things that we're trying to remember about that life? What are those things we're valuing? Those stories that come up first are probably your passions.
Oh, that's very interesting. I could relate to the thing that you said about boats. I used to out with a whole lot of boaters, big partiers, man. I had to get out of that lifestyle. But I could tell you this too. If I were to approach these people in these marinas or at these yacht clubs and start asking them about their passions and their boating and why they made the choices they made, I would definitely find inspiration there. First of all, they would love to share it.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
it's we know the power of conversation. It's just
Power of
uh,
listening. People love
um,
to be heard.
exactly. And then really and truly, all our answers are going to come through conversations. And we're just not putting ourselves within the right people. And a lot of the time, we do have those people around us because we've got a natural passion. We've somehow attracted those people around us,
Yeah.
and we just haven't engaged in opening up or having them open up to us.
Correct, correct. So I would suggest that another way to get around too easily, like let's take the roadblocks out, the excuses away from people. Another way to get around people to see if you like this kind of crowd of people, that if this is your passion, is meetup. The meetup groups. And
Yep,
these
yep.
days, you could do most of them via Zoom. You could do them online. So you don't even have to leave your house. So I'm trying to eliminate excuses for people.
Nice.
I want to repeat your number one obstacle because it was, well, if you don't have roadblocks in your way, like you are in a life situation where you need this paycheck at the end of the month with this amount, you have to get by. You have to find your way to accommodate that first.
Mm,
And boy, you had a really good number two. So assuming you have that, do
yeah.
yeah, then you move on to,
You find the passion and you engage in the conversations.
oh,
It's
there you go. So
that's
we got that much covered.
yeah, and
Um,
it's one of those things. A lot of people are in their passion, but they don't know it as well. So
I
even
found
that
that.
that is a state of loss as well. Because if you know, let's just say I might be in my passion because just taking care of kids or the family, that could be a state of passion. That could be a state of what I really, really enjoy and what what I would really miss if that went missing. So that could be a state of passion, but because we don't see it as a passion, we end up treating it as as an average thing in our life. We don't treat it with gratitude, essentially.
Like
So
gratitude.
there are passions in our own life that are working really well because we don't have that spark for it, or 'cause we just haven't really acknowledged it. We're not getting the spark for it. So there's always everyone wants something new. Okay, yeah, new, but really and truly, you might actually have plenty of good things in your life going for you at the moment. Maybe just do a bit more with those as well.
Darshan, I have a really good short story for you. It's about what I
Okay,
went through yesterday. It
go for it.
speaks to this totally. It was one of those days we could all relate to it. I kind of got up and had a lot of anxiety that day for some reason. I was feeling like, am I doing the right things in life? Have I done well? Have I followed the right paths and things like that? And that doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes I think we could all relate to that. And it was a cold winter day here. I got a message I Airbnb out a house, and I got a message from my renters that they would like me to shovel the snow over there, and I had to, and I had the three different client problems, all money problems, and that drives me crazy. We're in an economy now where everybody's sticking it to each other, and I had three different clients with money issues. And God, there's nothing I hate more than that. I hate paperwork. That's the side of my business. We all don't like every bit of every one of our businesses, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I had to go shovel the snow. And I went over there and it's freezing cold out. Well, I was dressed for it though. I was comfortable. And I shoveled this whole driveway at 58 years old, right? And and then I go and I'm thinking, I'm going to go to the supermarket and get a deli sandwich on the way home. And I'm over there and I'm trying to process through all that. Fortunately, I had all this time of being physically preoccupied to let my mind go through all these things. And I go to get this deli sandwich, and the woman's kind of looking at me like she hates her life and she hates me. Like she probably is looking at me like I don't have a job while she's grinding. She had to get up yet again. And, she looks at least my age, if not
Yeah,
older. And she's probably looking at me like this guy doesn't even have to work. He's over here getting a deli sandwich at midday from me. And and then I started thinking, lady, but you're in America and you have a job where you're getting a paycheck. What if you were in anyone? What if you're in China and you're enslaved doing
yeah,
slave weight labor happening in Africa, in South America, all over the world? And then I'm thinking about me. She's looking at me. I'm like, lady, you don't know. I just shoveled a driveway, a very long driveway of this snow in the freezing cold. And I got, I'm struggling on my own in my job with these different clients that have all these problems. And then she's going, well, at least you have a rental property. At least you have this business. My point is, this was all in my mind. And I changed my entire attitude around by noon about gratitude. I'm very grateful that I had that rental property that I had to shovel that snow at in the freezing cold in Cleveland,
yeah.
Ohio. And I'm very happy that I have this business where I have clients that actually have problems about the money.
No, it's it's literally uh, there's certain things that bring you alive, and then there's
Times we
certain
need
things
a
that
kick in the
question you.
butt. That's
Yeah.
my point.
Oh, it's certain things that make you stop and question. So those events in life, they're priceless.
Yeah.
We could think, okay, yeah, just listening to information is gonna spark these bigger questions and change our perspective. But really, is when it's like when you saw that lady, when things that make you stop and question it. That's all self-discovery.
Yes, yes, for sure. Another question. I don't know if I'm going to get through all my questions that I wanted to, but Eastern versus Western psychology. How has your work in blending Eastern and Western psychological approaches shaped your understanding of free thinking? That's a easy
Oh.
one for you, I bet.
No, no. So in the West, I don't think it exists.
Ah, I know.
Everyone comes to a psychologist because they want to match the expectations. That's all they want to do. They literally come to me. I've got this depression, that depression, whatever it is, or anxiety. Because really and truly, they want to match. They want to match something. They want to match something
Yeah.
they've heard or seen, or they're expecting themselves to be. They're chasing that. So you're always going to be unhappy if you're chasing. That's just literally the standard. If you're chasing something all the time, it's going to lead to unhappiness. Whether you break out of it by achieving it, or whether you don't, that could introduce happiness into it, but that's not going to. In most cases, you might get your little fulfillment, but then you have to over expand it and make out like you're really happy. So you've achieved the money maybe, and but it doesn't mean you were enjoying yourself in the process, or you made the friends in the process, etc. You're gonna have to make do with whatever happiness that money came with, and start
Yes.
compensating it everywhere. Now in the East, it's a whole different concept. In the East, it's be happy in no matter what you're doing, and whenever the results come, they come. Yeah, whatever the results are, is like so. To be honest, you'll see when you're just driving down in India, you'll see everything. You'll see the billionaires to the people without money. Everyone just going about their life, but no one actually complaining. They're still thinking the other person is unhappy.
Ah,
There'll be a poor person. They'll just look at the guy in a good car and be like, "Oh, look at him. He has to wear a tie or
yeah,
something."
yeah,
Everyone's
yeah.
just complaining. They're complaining about each other to think that that person isn't as happy as they are. It's
Right, right,
and
right.
in the West, we're just complaining about yeah that person must be this sad. Oh, look what he's doing. This is but in the East, everyone's just complaining about that person isn't as happy as me because they're not doing this.
Oh man,
It's
that's so cool. You know what? To put that very succinctly, I know it's enjoy the journey because the destination is truly death.
so it's not even a journey anymore. So a lot of people they're not even on a journey. They're just themselves. So
Oh, that's
fair enough.
terrible.
If there's a journey in place, you got to enjoy it. We could teach that in the West as well. We teach that in business seminars. Okay, yeah, you've got a journey. Make sure you're enjoying every part of it. That type of thing. That's doable. But imagine just being happy with who you are.
Mm.
Just so because there's a lot of faith-based thinking in the East, they'll think that God's given me this for certain reasons. I've been born with this abilities, or I've been born in this state for a reason. It's to serve my parents. They did everything they could for me, so I should just do everything that I could to maximize my existence as well. There's a lot of faith in it, so it takes out a lot of big questions
I
of
like that.
unfairness or this and that, or a lot of things that make people depressed. But because that faith is shadowing them, they could just really just amplify who they are today. They got no other worry, and that's I seen that I was I did a few shifts in the farm, and this he's probably in his 60s. He plows the farm in the morning and he goes to sleep in the afternoon under a tree with a rock as the cushion. That's just his cushion. He just goes to sleep, and I could probably go back to my hotel and not get a good sleep,
Ah,
as good a sleep as that. You see
yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah.
Is astonishing. Everyone in their own life is just because they're not comparing to other people, they're
Yes.
thinking that everyone else is not as happy as them. Because look, this farmer, he gets his food, he gets the money, he gets a cow that he could chill with all day, he gets connections, whatever he's getting, he's just
He's
so
grateful.
yeah, and when he looks at other people, he's thinking, oh, look how unfortunate they are.
He's not
So
looking at his Instagram page.
exactly. So this
Yeah,
is what's
yeah.
happened in India. The cities have started becoming a lot more depressed. The people in the city, their
Because they're
diets aren't
doing
as
it.
good. Their lifestyle, they're a bit more energetic, but they're not as healthy. They're not as
Mm.
smiley. All of that is fading from the cities and the villages. They're happy, but they have less. They're literally intangibles. They
Totally
probably
get
have
that.
less.
Totally get that. And okay, a little off on an aside here. If I recall, you're Hindu, correct?
Yeah,
Because we
yeah,
were talking about cultural differences, East and the West. Could you explain very briefly how Hindu differs from Western? I don't want to say religion because, God, we got all kinds of conflict when you say religion over here, but spirituality.
yeah.
Eastern versus Western spirituality difference.
So, Eastern, there's one word that we believe in. It's called infinity. So if
Ah, me
something's
too.
infinite, it means it never stops. So the only thing you got to worry about is who you are now and what your connection with God is now, not not after death or anything like that. Because after death, whatever's now just continues.
Yep.
So
Yep.
whatever you are right now is always just going to be. It always has been as well. So we've come from a past life, whatever life. None of that matters because whatever we are now is whatever the results of everything that's added up, whatever's going forward is whatever you've got right now. And when God comes into the picture as it's a lot of the time we think religion is a behavior policy. It's do this or else, do this or
Mm.
else.
Hmm.
Now, within Hinduism, it's there's so many variations of the behavior policy. So some people believe in you should wake up at this time, or you should do this, or you should pray in this way. Now, every single family is going to do that differently, but the motive is still the same. The
Uh,
motive is to humble yourself to the higher power. So that's literally it in the East. It's just do whatever you want to do, maximize it, but just do it for God. If you do it in the way He says, like that's going to be a variation. I go to even within Hinduism, you're going to go to a different part of India. They're going to say do it in this way,
Sure.
but it's just a method of humbling yourself to God. Now, in the West, they get a lot of passion from God.
Mm.
So they literally they're driven on that passion that God's like a superpower battery to them.
Sure, sure.
Just is bringing the faith alive. Everything's going to happen. God's there. So it's always going to be a case that God's there. We're just accessing Him in different ways. So the West are accessing Him through the energy they're getting just by thinking about Him, just by thinking about what they're going to get from Him, etc. And in the East, we're accessing God from knowing that because I'm His, He's just going to help me anyway. Because if I humble myself to Him, uh, he kind of owes me in that way as well. So I don't need to
Ah,
ask for anything. And there's a temple. It's down south. They get 100,000 visitors a day. So I went there. I'm standing in a 7 hour line. Now everyone in that line, they're going. They want something from God. That's why they're doing that whole austerity. And their
yeah.
belief is that God is going to fulfill that need. Now this is what we say Hinduism is built of. There's loads of gods, there's loads of forms of gods, but you go to the god, you find you got what you wanted, and then you start realizing, okay, if he could give me this, he could also give me more. So then one day you get to the point where you don't need anything more. You just want that God himself. Because imagine, I'm ill, I pray to God, God cures me of this illness. Then I'm thinking, if he could cure me of this illness, he must be pretty powerful. Why don't I just get God himself? You see
Right,
what I'm
right.
saying?
Sure,
And
sure.
that's the joy after as well, because literally God doesn't need to do anything. He can. He's just there to keep us happy.
I'm an admirer of Hinduism and Buddhism. Always have been because it's a very practical approach. But when you explain it all, I don't see that it's a great big departure from Christianity. And and it makes me think something I think a lot is that in the West there's such a what's the word? The cool movement. There's a word for it. It's the cool movement is to be anti-Christian, to be anti-religion, and there's an arrogance to saying, you believe in that silly cartoon stuff, and boy, does that leave you empty, because either of these faiths, Western or Eastern, gives you faith outside of yourself. And my God, we need faith outside of
Yeah.
ourselves. So I'm a
Well,
big proponent in spirituality, is what I would
it's
say about that.
it's one of those. It's imagine something that's kept so many millions, billions of people
Billions.
all going for the last crazy number of years. And then
Yeah.
yeah, it's in Hinduism there's a lot of different types of temples as well. So if I go to the ones in the Himalayas, you could practically experience what they're saying you're going to get. So if I'm going to get a certain state of mind, go to the Himalayas for that. If I want a certain state of meditation, there's massive temples in the south. They're built for this type of meditation. So there's two types. There's the obzo. There's like if you think about it as female and male. So if you want to gain power, you go to the male type of ones. If you want to drain your negativity, if you just want it just to absorb straight into the ground and really release whatever's going on. There's certain temples you just go, and just after going there, you feel healthier. You're mentally healthier as well. So it's like what are you looking for?
Right.
Because we
Sure.
don't know what we're looking for. We don't ask those questions, and a lot of the time it's we kind of let life just pass
Hmm.
out all the way, and we just conform. We are good conformers. We conform to every single identity we're meant to conform to, a student, mother, father, etc., employee. We've done the conforming game really well.
Yes.
When it's time to go, it's you're kind of thinking, like, what was I really happy? Why didn't I sort this whole happiness thing out a bit earlier?
I think that we touched upon this, but you're coming back to it again about the conforming, overcoming the external influences. What we'll probably repeat ourselves a little bit, and I think that's okay. What advice would you give to someone feeling overwhelmed by societal and media influences? The
So,
conforming.
society and media influences only fair enough. I'm repeating, but everything only affects you because you haven't questioned yourself. Now, what technique do you use to question yourself? This is you can't just ask yourself, yeah, what do I really want? That's that's not really gonna.
Hmm.
It will last a few days and then it will just change. You haven't
Sure.
really questioned yourself. The biggest point where people question themselves is when they go through an illness or when they're bedbound.
Uh,
All of a
there's
sudden, they
such
ask,
a there's such a advantage to going through something horrific
yeah,
like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
But why does it only happen once you've? Why can't we
Yes.
do it on purpose? That's what we.
Yes. Can
It's
you answer that?
so this is what I do throughout my therapy sessions. So someone will come into therapy, we'll go through the therapy process, we will make sure they've overcome the situational hardships, whatever the situation that they were going to resolve, and bring them to a better state of mind. Once they're there, how do they know that something isn't creeping up behind the scenes and going to drop them one day? How do they know there isn't a package of negativity building up or maybe coming up from the past that's going to drop them one day? The only way to do that is once you overcome this whole thing of distraction. When you're not distracted, this is what happens when you go through an illness or you go through a tragedy or when someone close to you passes away. Because all these distractions don't matter to you at the moment, you start focusing on what is live and running in the mind.
Uh-huh.
This is what we say everyone needs, but what I do with clients, I set up the 1 hour little free-minded thinking time slot. I could send them to the forest, send them to a mountain, send them somewhere out in nature. Sit there for an hour. Whatever happens, just sit there for an hour. For half an hour, you end up planning your week and stuff like that. Then you kind of run out of surface level stuff to think about.
Yeah.
Once you run out of surface level things to think about, most likely you're going to get agitated and want to move location or you're going to want to do something different. That's when you force yourself to stay sitting, finish that 1 hour. Whatever came to your mind is you. Face it, acknowledge it, whatever it is. You don't need to force it. It'll just come to you once, once you're seeing what's going on in your mind. Then you kind of start realizing what your life is. Because whatever your mind is thinking, when there is no situational hardship, is who you are. Now, if all you're doing is trying to plan to help some other people, maybe, or plan to make sure we've got another holiday, you're trying to excite your family. So
Uh,
that's currently what you're trying to do. So identify it, note it, and then start working into it. And if you're just trying to do something more health-based, really and truly, you're trying to expand your existence. You're trying to you're trying to be more of who you are. So work to that deeper motive.
mhm.
Once you start working to the deeper motive, every other distraction feels like a joke after. It's like the news, everything like that. You've got so much more to work on with your own life if you start doing that 1 hour of just sitting
Mhm.
distraction free, in a nice peaceful place, in a place a bit more surrounded by nature. Uh,
Inspirational.
yeah, it's fair enough if it's too cold where you are. You could
No,
always
dude,
find
if you
a peace.
dress for it and you're
Yeah,
comfortable, it's just as inspirational for
no,
sure.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you start to come up with more of what you're inclined for. So then these are questions. So then you start to try to put yourself around more of those kind of people.
Oh, it gets addictive. Imagine if you find out. You know when we put a seed in the ground, we kind of wait for it to blossom, and then we find out if it's an apple tree or pear tree. That's 5 years into the game.
Yeah.
Imagine if we just found out where that seed came from. You see what I'm saying? So with all these thoughts that are going on in our mind, instead of waiting for them to cause a reation or
To
whatever
blossom into
goes on,
something. Yeah.
find out where they actually came from. What's all this going on in my mind? And it's there's a lot of energy to play with when we look inside. Just look at what you're contemplating about. Just even if you do it for 5 minutes, you're gonna end up noticing you're fighting something. You're fighting to make sure you focus on this, or you don't focus on that, or you're fighting to avoid certain lines of thought. If you've got something heavy, yeah, fair enough, you might need a therapy process.
Hmm.
But if it's just a casual day to day, yeah, just keep that perspective on it, and you're going to start finding deeper answers. You're going to start finding. Uh, I have a call with a yogi every morning for my psychology training. He was teaching me about death. Now, the whole concept about death, he was saying everyone knows when they're going to die, but because they're so distracted on whatever they're distracted by, they can't really give the attention to that death related thought. So if death's coming to you in a few days, you start noticing in the body. Your body actually tells you, your mind, your instinct tells you, okay, yeah, it's time to go. Time's almost up. But because you're too busy about your desires, we end up so lost in other thoughts. It's just like sometimes we end up talking to someone and we don't even notice what we've eaten
Yeah.
because our mind's somewhere else. And this
Right.
is with a lot of things in our life. We've got access to all this energy. We've got access to all this contemplation power because we're just so externally distracted all day long, and we never give that time. So, what else can we do?
This brings up an important question in my mind, and I'm asking you as a counselor, as a therapist, with what you do. Still talking about the societal or media influences. How do you handle when dealing with people that are asking for guidance? How do you handle online? Whether it's just social media we're talking about, because we're talking about distractions. And man, we've never been more distracted. You were just a few minutes ago talking about how the people in the cities in India, as those get more developed, they seem less happy than the people in the villages. And I'm certain that this is part of it. As we become more anonymous and we get more involved online, I'm online all day, every day. I say online. To a lot of people, that simply means social media. Now, to me, it means news sites and all kinds of related things, YouTube and any number of things. Zoom. I'm on Zoom all the time. Uh, but it's the distraction compared to just some years ago, just 10, 20 years ago. The distraction is immeasurable. Is this something that you take into account when you're working with certain people? Do you talk to certain people and go, whoa, man, you need to take a break from the electronics?
So that's something they tell me. So it's,
Ah,
they can tell. It's everyone can tell if social media is too much. It's just whether they have that level of self-control to do anything about it. Now, self-control is the real thing everyone's struggling with. So this self-control, this ability to act on what you really want to act on. And we just don't have that ability to act on it. Just tell people, just face it. Even if you tell me you want to do something, you're not going to do it. You just don't have that level of discipline on you.
right.
And those type of things, this is why, fair enough, the distractions might continue. Someone might have a social media addiction. It might continue. But are they building that practice on the side to really develop themselves, really develop disciplines in their life? Are they even developing at all? Or are they just on a steady decline in life generally?
Mm.
That type of conversation is easy to spark up. You could easily get that out. Someone just say, yeah, well, 5 years ago, what were you aiming for? What was good? What was because everyone was more disciplined 5 years ago than they are today if they're complaining about something, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's really and truly you can feel sorry for people, but it's gonna scare them when they start doing the introspective. If I sit them down for an hour, they're gonna see who they are. And they're gonna just avoid it. They're just not gonna want to attend to it. It's not gonna excite them. It's not gonna imagine finding out that you really don't have much going on in terms of your passions in life and this and that. Then it's a good thing and a bad thing, but you're seeing it. You're seeing it
Yeah.
live.
Yeah. it totally gets you anxiety ridden. Possibly, you could have panic attacks over that. Isn't this like what I'm talking about with some people having a problem with online? Isn't the same conversation as any addiction? Like, just totally
So,
take control of your life.
so you've got the addictions as a topic. You could go to the physical and the psychological. So now it started off as a psychological addiction. So people start smoking and people start scrolling because they're bored. They just want to do something. They want to have a release, or smoking is just another version of breathing. So we do that. We do that on purpose sometimes. Just do your breathing session on purpose, and uh, but once it becomes a physical addiction, your chemicals are seeking this now. So same if someone is heavily on the dopamine rush from scrolling, we have to replace that. Now,
Mm.
if we have to replace that, oh, those options, we're gonna have to think about some funky options to replace their dopamine addiction now. So we get them hooked on a bit of stand-up comedy for a while. Then we get them hooked on setting meetings with people. Then, if possible, we get them a sales job, that type of thing.
That's
Something hard,
cool.
something mentally.
Uh,
It just depends on their personality. But all we're doing is changing the cause of chemical release, and that's
sure,
your
sure.
physical. That's how we redirect a physical addiction. Mental addictions are, yeah, something's on your mind. You can snap out of that in no time. It's like if uh, if one of my loved ones passed away in my hands, and the last thing they said was to stop smoking, all of a sudden I would have stopped smoking no matter what, because there's a level of value. So what we do in therapy, we build up the need. If someone has a need, they will sort something out. But till then, the cycle just continues. They might fix up for a week or two, but snap straight back in.
You make me think of two things. First of all, aren't you a hypnotist?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay, because everything that you just said right there made me think, yeah, man, this guy's just shifting your goals underneath your feet. That's ingenious, really. Oh my God, what was the second thing I was going to ask you about?
Mm.
I forget it. It slipped away from me. But I do know this, that we're running really low on time. I wanted to,
It's all good. It's
yeah,
always
yeah, man.
interesting. Yeah, it's topics of the mind. I remember I remember back when I was in ashram. This was the only topic we used to talk about. Imagine only talking about the mind all the time.
Oh
So
yeah.
I used to ask a lot of questions after. So then I got sent back to the UK. I had a hard time trying to really act on my life because I didn't build the practice. Now, this whole thing about building a practice into your life, building a morning routine,
Yeah, yeah.
building some sort of skill sets, so building a talent, building on whatever these challenges are, and building on finding this passion. The real mastery of the mind is a lot of physical activity, a lot of physically applying yourself. Then you start learning about the mind. So you know people that run the marathon, whilst they're going through that hard journey, they learn more about themselves than they would have through any books. So
Yes.
we know physical exertion, going for these challenges, going for the bigger prospects in life. That's when you're going to learn loads about yourself when it comes to psychology. And if you've got someone to bounce it off with, you're going to learn it a lot faster as well.
No, absolutely. So, one of the takeaways you could have there is remember to enjoy the journey. That's for sure. And you made me think of something. I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast last night when I was walking Charlie, and it was with the comedian Brian Callen. And Joe was talking about his passion for billiards, pool. And he gets really obsessed with, and so they started talking about some of the world's best pool players and how this particular guy owns the world record of making 870 shots in a row, something like that. And this guy, the comedian Brian Callen, said something like, so imagine the amount of hours that he puts in every day to master that. And he said, and he quoted something, thousands of hours or something. He goes, no matter what it is that your passion is, you put that many thousands of hours into that singular passion, you're going to know some crazy stuff about life in general.
Exactly. And imagine those hours come. naturally from within. So, when you have to force those hours, it sounds scary. Of course, it's going to be
You better
even to
love
learn
it.
an instrument, if you have to force yourself to do that. In the early days, fair enough, force yourself because you're breaking out a habit. But find something that you know will pull you. It will just, the hours will just come naturally. So, same thing with me and drumming is an instrument. But now, the saying goes, play the drum until the drum plays you. So
Oh,
now,
sure.
now I'm
Muscle
just playing the
memory,
drum.
right?
It's playing me in reverse. So now,
Hmm.
now I don't. The hours are going to come, and
Yeah.
the whole fruitfulness, the whole learning experience, everything's as a package now. Now, if you haven't found that yet, now it's time just to do that whole introspective, really work deep into yourself.
Okay. With that, Darshan, can you tell me a little bit more about your practice in very practical ways? What you have to offer? We talked before you were doing a lot of, oh, you know what? I remember because it wasn't too far off of COVID. Like
Yeah,
you were
exactly.
starting to do live events and all that.
Yeah,
COVID
exactly.
just put a damper on all those
Yeah.
plans. So how are things looking today? One-on-one versus group stuff versus what do you have to offer?
Oh, fair enough. So I'm always going into companies, setting up mental health processes and doing the talks, doing the whole engagement workshops. And from that, I end up with a lot of one-to-one clients. One-to-one clients, I do a lot of free-minded work with the clients now. So instead of sit-down formal therapy, fair enough if they have a difficult situation we need to work through, do that. But otherwise, I send them, put their headphones on, send them for a walk, a little nature walk in the park. Whilst they're walking, they'll just be talking it out, and then I give them a report. I say, okay, this is your passions, this is what's working, this is what's not working. They go away with that report. If they after 2 months, 3 months, I phone up, I start saying, what do you really want now? Because they've had some time to get that report
Uh,
mature. Now, once you've got that report, you kind of know your strengths, weaknesses, your passions, what naturally comes to you, what naturally goes against you. If you start doing that, then if you want to build a practice for it, then I do a little 7-day crash course for them. So a phone call in the morning and evening, and we set up their practice of life, what they need to be doing in terms of energy levels throughout the day, where their mind is slipping out, where their mind is going into distractions, where they've got passions and they can't work on them. So where are we going to slot that time in as well? Because they've got a job, they've got life restrictions as well. So we need to really work that. So that's the 7-day program. That's I'll do a 7-day program because that's my most successful way of changing people's lives. So it's been going strong, and yeah, just we'll keep pushing that.
okay, very good. And what can our listeners do for you? How can you engage with our listeners? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, I post a video a day on Instagram at the moment, and
Nice.
hoping to start posting a video a day on YouTube. So going out to India next month as well. So I'll be with the yogis for 3 weeks. I've got a yogi that's 103 years old. I want to take a video with him. He dances. He's up and alive. He's just amazing. And his age 103. I'm gonna ask him a few of his secrets.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
He
sure.
he told me once the only reason I'm alive is because I control my diet. I was like, fair enough. Let's see how you control your diet. So
Wow, yeah, yeah. And so what is your Instagram handle?
it's all deep psychology. So
And
Instagram is deep psych, PSYC, and then same thing on YouTube. If you just type in deep psych, you're gonna hopefully find me on all the platforms.
website is deeppsych.com, right?
Deeppsych.com as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Hey, man, really appreciated your time here with us. I could have went for another hour and a half as well, but life
I
calls.
appreciate it.
All right, we'll do it again.
Perfect. Okay,
Take care,
thanks.
Darshan. All right. Thanks.
Hey there, over 50, starting over friends. Mark Tennant back with you with your AI tip of the week. This week, using AI to stay current in the news from your field of your expertise or your industry. You know, when I'm searching news myself, and AI obviously is a lot of the news that I look up on a daily basis because I want to stay current on it. It's like drinking from a fire hose. You just can't do it. There's so much information. It comes at you so quickly. You go to this website and that website, click here, click there. It could be maddening to try to find the information that you want to stay current on or the information that you're looking for. So why not use AI tools like ChatGPT? And today we're also going to introduce Microsoft Copilot to you. Use these tools to find the news of your industry. It's going to save you some time. It's a quick way. So let's get to it. So let's open ChatGPT first of all. And here's a prompt. And if you're watching the video, you might want to stop it, or you might want to listen to this a couple of times if you're listening to the podcast. So enter the prompt. So I did that, and in this case, I'm using a manufacturing customer support supervisor. I just filled that in. Here's the prompt, and fed it into ChatGPT, and these are the results. Now, as a manufacturing customer service supervisor, these are some pretty good questions that maybe you want to ask the AI a lot to get these news out of. For example, latest trends in customer service, updates for customer service expectations and behaviors, new tools and technologies, changes that affects customer support in manufacturing, and any other things as well. Great questions it came up with, but if the first 5 questions ChatGPT comes up doesn't really grab you that much, maybe the ones that do, copy and paste and regenerate the questions. Get the questions you want, get 3 or 4 good questions, and then let's move over to Copilot. Copilot.microsoft.com. If you don't have a Microsoft account, please sign up for one. They're free. And it seems like when ChatGPT is the same way, you can use the free version and not sign in. But what I have found, number one, if you get an account and sign in, it gives you a list of the library of the chats that you've had. But number 2, it just seems like the answers or the responses are always better when you sign in. I don't know, maybe that's just me. But go ahead and sign in, copilot.microsoft.com. Take the questions that ChatGPT gave you and start feeding them one by one into Copilot. So here's the first question that I had before. What are the latest trends in customer service best practices within the manufacturing industry? Not bad of an answer. Multi-channel approach, performance-based contracts, leveraging technology, tracking KPIs, and so forth and so forth. Not bad. And then after each response, you'll notice the little numbers. Those are citations, and that is where Copilot derived that response from. So you could actually go to the original article or go to the original website if you desire. Number 1, to see if the information is accurate. But number 2, maybe there's something more there that you want to read. Well, here's a pro tip. So follow up with Copilot and with this prompt. And this is in Copilot now. From these updates, identify which developments directly impact, in this case, a customer service manufacturer supervisor, and explain why they matter. I went ahead and did that, and boom. So multi-channel approach, why it matters. Predictive analytics, why it matters. Leveraging technology, why it matters, and so forth. So not bad at all. 2 tools, ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot, to help you get the industry news just like that, much quicker than the past. So, many ways we could use these tools, as we've always said, but it just takes practice. And I'm always telling you to practice your prompts. And by the way, save those prompts in a prompt library so you always have some kind of a base prompt to go off of, and then maybe some notes and things that you have, and you go back into that document weeks later and go, oh, I did not run this prompt, and that kind of a thing. A prompt library is a number 1 thing to have. MarkTennant.net is the website. Mark@marktennant.net. If you want to email me, I answer all of my emails. Happy to do that. And if you want to connect on the socials, LinkedIn preferred, Mark E. Tennant. So until next time, keep refining those prompts, keep a prompt library, keep learning, and keep using AI. Take care.